So today we will talk about the exponential, the logarithm, and the inverse trigonometric functions. Let's start by defining the exponential. Exponential function. Okay, so how do we do that? First, we consider some real number. I denote A, and we will use the following notation. A to the n is by definition A times A times A, n times, where n is some integer greater than 1. Then we set A to the 0. This will be equal to 1. Once we have done that, we can define the powers of A, negative powers. So what will be A to the minus n? It will be, by definition, just 1 over A to the power n. Okay, this defines the power for an integer. Now, if we want to extend the definition to a larger category of numbers, not only integers, so for example, we start by defining what means A to the power P over Q. So here, P and Q are integers, and Q will be non-zero, right? Okay, so how is this defined? Well, this defined as follows. We will take the Q's root of A to the power P. So this is well defined, always well defined if A is greater than 0. Otherwise, as you know, you cannot take square root of a negative number, for example. Okay, so you have to be a little cautious, but this makes sense at least if A is greater than 0. Now, so the set of all such numbers, okay, so P and Q are integers and Q is not 0. This is usually denoted as Q, the rational numbers. Rational numbers. And one fact that I will use but not prove is that real numbers can be approximated by rational numbers. Yeah, for example, rational numbers, as you know, yeah, for example, take pi, okay? Pi is a real number, but it's not a rational, okay? So it's 3.14, etc. But after the comma, it never stops. You will have an infinite sequence of numbers. If you cut this sequence at each cut, so you will have a rational numbers. And if you cut more and more, longer and longer, then you will get finally the real number pi. Okay, so you can see that pi can be approached by rational numbers. So this is true for any real numbers, indeed. And now, from this fact, we will define A to the power x to be the limit of rational approaching this value x of a to the rational. Okay? So real numbers can be approximated by rational numbers, means that I can find some rational numbers converging to x. Okay, and then a over r is defined by the definition above. So I get this way a definition for the exponential function. And to summarize, theorem for, so here I'm going to take a greater than 0, then a to the x. This is actually a continuous function with a domain. Yeah, so this is just a rule, right? So domain, what I call domain is the largest set A on which f is defined. Okay, this I will call the domain. Now, what is the domain of this function? Well, the domain is R. Okay, so I can take x to be any real number, and range. So what is a range? Range will be the set of all elements of the form f of x, so that x belongs to the domain. Well, here belongs to R. Okay. So this is always a subset. Okay, this is a subset, of course, of the real number. It's a set of real numbers or values, all values that I can write as f of x. This is how we call the range. And the largest set A on which f is defined, I will call it the domain. Okay. So what is the range of this exponential power function? Well, this will be, so 0 open in 0, the value 0 is never obtained, reached, and infinity. Okay. Now, this power function has some nice property. Oh yeah, so let's call the power functions. Now, some nice property of this function is that, as you know, ax plus y is actually equal to ax times ay, while if you multiply axy, this will be equal to ax to the y, right? Now, another one is that if you have abx, then this is equal to ax times bx. Yeah. All right. So besides these properties, we have the following limits at infinity, behavior at infinity. For this, I will distinguish the following cases. First one, imagine that a is greater than 1. Then in such case, the limit of a of x when x goes to infinity will be infinity, and the limit when x goes to minus infinity of the same function will be 0. Now the graph in such case looks something like that. So I am in the case where a is greater than 1. Anyway, at 0 I will always have the value 1. and my function will be something like that. Okay, y equal ax. Now what happened in the second case? So in the second case, a is between 0 and 1. Then in such case, the two limits at infinity are as follows. First of all, the limit at plus infinity of this function will be 0, while the limit when x goes to minus infinity of the same function, then this becomes, in this case, plus infinity. Okay, and the graph of such function, so you still have the value 1 for x equals 0, but this time this looks more like this, right? Something like this. Right, so as you can see, at minus infinity, then this goes to infinity, and when x goes to infinity, then the function goes to 0. Okay. Now I would like to explain the exponential, how to understand the exponential. So to understand the exponential, I'm going first to define a very famous number, which is called the number e. Number e is a rational number, as you know, and e is approximately something like 2.718, and there is no end to this. Okay, so how is this number defined? Well, we are going to use the power function. Actually, one can show that the function f of x equal 1 plus x to the power 1 over x. Okay, we observe this function. So it is a little delicate, but you can show that this function has a limit when x goes to 0. Okay, so it's a very interesting exercise to show that this function has a limit when x goes to 0, and this limit is denoted e. So this is the number e. The number e, so that is, e will be just the limit when x goes to 0 of this function. So it's a non-trivial fact that this limit exists. Okay, once you have done that, of course, you are ready to define the exponential. So we set x of x, or e to the x, and the exponential is called the exponential function. That's right. Okay, now that you have defined the exponential, I would like to define the logarithm. Now, the logarithm is defined from the exponential, and remember, the exponential is defined from the power function and the fact that this limit exists. Okay, so how do we define the logarithm? Well, here we need one definition. A function is called one to 1 or injective, if it never takes the same value twice, id est, which means it's a Latin and it means that is. So the same meaning is that if you take two real numbers and they are distinct, then necessarily the evaluation at this value will give two different values. F of x1 will be different of f of x2. And this, so this is a mathematical writing. This should happen for any x1 different of x2, right? Another way to say that is to say that if you have the following equality of values, fx1 equal fx2, then it must imply that x1 equal x2. Okay, so we will call a function satisfying these properties one-to-one, and sometimes also some people denote it injective. Now, graphically, no horizontal line intersect the graph of f more than once. Okay, so this fact, no horizontal line intersects the graph of f more than once, is called the horizontal line test. Or maybe I will abbreviate this as HL test. Okay, this is a way to know very quickly, just by looking at the graph, if a function is one-to-one or not. Okay, now, so let's take an example of a one-to-one function. Well, our function a to the x is one-to-one. Is one-to-one on its domain, right? So that's a good thing. Now, remember, we want to define the logarithm from the exponential. Now, we needed to introduce the notion of one-to-one function. How are we going to use this notion of one-to-one to define the logarithm? Okay, let's see that. Theorem. We consider f from A to B such that f is one-to-one on A, and we are going to assume that B is the range of f. So we have two hypotheses. And then, if we have these two hypotheses satisfied, there exists a function, well, we can say a unique function actually, a unique function f to the minus 1, this function will be from b to a. Okay, so this will be defined as follows. So f minus 1 of y will be x if f of x is equal to y. This function is well defined because of the hypothesis 1 to 1, and the set B is actually the range. And this function satisfies the following. So, namely, we have f minus 1 composed with f of x will be equal to x. This will be true for any x in A. And f composed with f minus 1 and applying y will be equal to y, and this for any y in B. F minus 1 is naturally called the inverse function of f. All right, so how do we prove this theorem? Well, it's not difficult. We consider this b, this y, small y is in B, and B is by definition, by my hypothesis, this B is in the set of values f of x when x belongs to A, isn't it? So it means that there exists some x in A such that f of x equal y. Okay? Now, I set f minus of y equal x, right? Now, this is well defined. And this x is unique. Why is it unique? Well, there is no choice here, because if we had f of x equal f of x prime, then we would necessarily add x equal x prime. So this x must be unique, okay? Just satisfying this and using the fact that f is 1 to 1. All right, so this allows to define the function, and then you can check easily that this relation holds. So this is how we obtain the notion of inverse function. Now remember, we try to define the logarithm function, okay? So how do we do? The logarithm function. Well, for a greater than 0, and also we are going to take not 1, then the function a over x is increasing or decreasing, right? Depending on the fact that a is greater than 1 or less than 1. And so, it is 1 to 1 in both cases. You see? Because if a is greater than 1, it will be increasing, strictly increasing, and otherwise it will be strictly decreasing. So in any case, a horizontal line test will tell you that the function is 1 to 1. Therefore, its inverse function is well defined by the previous theorem. And we call it log subscript a of x. Okay? So, what is the domain of this? Well, in both cases, if you remember, the domain, the range of this function, so the domain of this one is the range of this one. And you remember, it will be the real numbers that are positive, okay? And what is the range? Well, the range is the whole real number. It is also a continuous function . And called logarithm with base a. All right, so logarithm with base a. Now, it satisfies as any inverse functions the following relation. So basically, if you take the base a logarithm of the power function a times x, then you will get actually x. Also, if you take first the logarithm in base a, and then take a to the power this, you will get also, okay, or we can say y, then you will get y. So the first equality is true, so this is true for any y, it must be a positive number, right? Positive. And this will be true for any x in the real number. Okay, so you know this relation. Now, definition. Log ex is denoted ln of x, and the L comes from logarithm and the n from natural. So, and called the natural logarithm. So remember, it is the inverse function of e to the power x, right? Okay, so in particular, we can show easily that the logarithm of 1 is actually 0. Sorry, the logarithm of 1. Yeah, this will be 0 because this is equal to logarithm of exponential of 0, right? And this must be equal to 0. For similar reason, the logarithm, natural logarithm of e will be 1. Yeah. All right. Now, in fact, this natural logarithm is the most famous among all other possible logarithms. The reason is that you can go from a logarithm in base A to a logarithm, natural logarithm by the following formula. So we are following proposition, which says that for any A greater than 0 and not equal to 1, the logarithm in base A of x is actually equal to the natural logarithm of x divided by the natural logarithm of A. Okay? So studying this one, knowing this one is basically knowing this one. And therefore, this year we will basically work with natural logarithm and exponential. Okay? Right. Now, I would like to talk about the inverse trigonometric functions after having defined the power function, exponential, logarithm. So, what about the inverse trigonometric functions? So it is the application of the same principle. We are going to do that for the three most famous trigonometric functions. Namely, let's start by studying the cos, okay? So if we study the cos, let's consider, for example, in the interval 0, pi, right? And here we will have an interesting value pi over 2. Now what happened for the graph of the function cos? Y equal cos of x. Okay, so as you know, for x equals 0, we get 1, value 1. Then at pi over 2, we get 0. And then at pi, we get the value minus 1. Okay, something like that. Right, something like that. Okay, now you can use the horizontal line test, and you will see that any horizontal line will intersect this graph only once. Be aware that if we were considering the cos on this fraction, for example, the horizontal line test would not be true anymore, okay? We would have two intersections, one here, one here. So it's very important to consider the proper interval. Here the proper interval is cos from 0 pi, and on this interval, what is the range? What is the range? So what are the all possible values? Well, they vary from, as you can see, from -1 to 1, okay? So this is a one-to-one function, as you can see. Horizontal line test will say this to us. And therefore, we can define an inverse function cos minus 1, and it will be defined. So the domain of cos minus 1 will be the range of the inverse function, so it will be minus 1, 1. And this will go to the domain of the previous ones, that is 0 pi. Okay? This is also denoted sometimes arc cos. Okay. That's how we define the arc cosinus, or also denoted cos minus 1 function. And as you can imagine, it satisfies the following. Okay, so we have two formulas. Basically, cos of cos minus 1 y, this will be equal to y, and this will be true for any y in minus 1, 1, while cos minus 1 of cos x will be always equal to x, and this will be true for any x in, so here, between 0 and pi, closed. Okay, now what happened for sine function? Here again, if you consider the graph of the sine function on all the real number, obviously, as you know, this will not be, it will not satisfy the horizontal line test. Therefore, we need to choose an interval where this test will become true, and it's really a convention to choose one interval rather than another one. So for the sine function, we will consider the interval minus pi over 2 pi, pi over 2, something here. Okay, so what happened on this interval where, so sine of minus pi over 2 will be minus 1, and then we will have this kind of functions. Yeah, something like that. So here will be minus 1, and here will be 1. This is a function y equal sine of x. So again, this here is defined. So the domain we take, no, the interval we consider is minus pi over 2, pi over 2, and the range on this interval, as you can see, is minus 1, 1 again. And therefore, by the horizontal line test, which says that the sine function is 1 to 1 on this interval, we will deduce an inverse function, sine to the minus 1, which will be defined from minus 1, 1, and goes to minus pi over 2 to pi over 2. That's right. Again, they will satisfy two formulae, namely the sine of sine minus 1 applied to y will be equal to y, and this will hold for any y in minus 1, 1. And also you will have sine minus 1 of sine x will be equal to x, and this will be true when x is taken in the interval minus pi over 2, pi over 2. Now this sine inverse is also denoted by some people arc sine. Okay, so you can use really one or the other notation. Now, when you want to construct the inverse of the tangent function, you have to be a little careful, because as you can see, we have considered the cos minus 1 on 0 pi and inverse of sine on a different interval. Okay, so you have to be a little careful here for the tangent. So let's see what happens for the tangent. Well, we come back to the graph. Okay, so what is the graph of the tangent? As you know, it's cyclic, it repeats itself, and one of the most important interval where you see everything is, okay, you have something like this happening, here it's 0, this is a function y equal tangent x, except that this will happen again and again and again, so you will have always this, and here, this, etc. Never stop, okay? Now, the horizontal line test say to us that we have to restrict our attention to some interval. So here, sorry, I forgot to note, this is between minus pi over 2 and pi over 2. This will be 3 pi over 2, etc. So one of the most best interval to consider is this one, right? Near the origin of the graph. And so we will consider this here. We will consider the tangent function in the interval. So be careful. The function is not defined actually at minus pi over 2 and pi over 2. As you can see from the graph, the limit when x goes to minus pi over 2 is minus infinity, while the limit of the tangent function when x goes to pi over 2 is plus infinity. Okay, so it's not defined as these two values. So we will take as interval, open interval minus pi over 2, pi over 2. If we do that, what is the range? Well, the range, as you can see, every single real number can become a value. So the range of this is actually the real number. Okay, on this interval, we can easily see by the horizontal line test that this will be 1-to-1, and therefore we can construct the inverse function. And the inverse function will be defined from the real number to this open interval minus pi over 2, pi over 2. Okay? So you see how we could deal with a little difficulty that sine and cos, inverse sine and inverse cosine were not defined actually on the same interval. But we can still define the inverse tangent. Okay? And yeah, as you can imagine easily, it satisfies the now familiar formula that the tangent of the tangent inverse of y will be equal to y, and the tangent inverse of the tangent function of x will be equal to x. Yeah. The first equality is true when y belongs to R, and the second one is true when x is in this open interval minus pi over 2, pi over 2. Yeah. So basically, this is how are defined respectively the exponential function. So remember, the exponential function is defined from the power function and from the existence of some limit. And then using always the same process of horizontal line test, we can define some inverse function in the case of exponential, and it will be called logarithm. And we can define this in the sense of trigonometric function also, and it will be called inverse cos, inverse sine, inverse tangent, if you start from sine, cos, or tangent function. I will stop here for today. Thank you.